Legendary, ruthless, and almost uncontrollable. The Honda CR500R wasn't just a motocross bike, it was a hand grenade on wheels. With insane power and explosive torque, this beast separated the fearless from the foolish. Today, we're diving into the brutal truth of why the CR500R was just too powerful to ride, and why riders still chase its madness decades later. Buckle up, because this is going to get wild. 1984, hair was big, tracksuits were loud, and motocross was about to meet its ultimate predator. Honda unleashed the CR500R, a two-stroke missile with more power than most riders could handle. The motocross world would never be the same. The first CR500R hit dealerships for just $2,600. Sounds cheap, right? Wrong. That price tag was buying you 59 horsepower of pure, unfiltered violence, wrapped in 101 kilograms of barely contained chaos. This wasn't your weekend warrior trail bike. This was Honda's declaration of war against physics, common sense, and anyone brave enough to kick it over. Air-cooled, single-cylinder, and meaner than a rattlesnake with a hangover. By 1985, Honda realized their air-cooled monster was literally too hot to handle, so they did what any sane manufacturer would do. They made it even more powerful. Enter liquid cooling. Same brutal attitude, but now it could stay cool while melting your face off. Here's the crazy part. This was the peak. The 1985 liquid-cooled model was the most powerful CR500R ever built. Around 64 horsepower of pure, undiluted terror. And what did Honda do next? They spent the next 15 years trying to tame the beast they'd created. Honda built the perfect engine in 1985, then spent the next decade and a half making it weaker. Why? Because riders kept getting launched into orbit. By 2001, that legendary 64 horsepower had been neutered down to around 56. Honda was literally detuning their own masterpiece just to keep riders alive. It's like Ferrari building the perfect race car, then adding training wheels, because people kept crashing. But here's the twisted part. Those early, unrideable models, they're the ones collectors hunt for today. The more dangerous it was, the more valuable it became. The power delivery problem. The CR500R didn't just make power, it made the wrong kind of power. While the Kawasaki KX500 had that sophisticated KIPS system for smooth, controllable delivery, the CR500R was pure on-off switch brutality, no finesse, no gradual buildup. Just explosive, violent acceleration that could flip you backward faster than you could say, "Oh shh." Riders described it as an explosive motocross hand grenade. One moment you're cruising, the next you're doing an unplanned backflip. The power came on like a freight train hitting a brick wall, except you were the brick wall. It makes the world go blurry, whether it's the speed or vibration or both. That's how one owner described riding his '88 CR500R. The vibrations were so intense, they literally changed your vision. Imagine strapping yourself to a jackhammer that does 100 miles per hour. That's the CR500R experience. The engine didn't just run. It attacked every bolt, every bearing, every piece of your body with relentless mechanical violence. Riders would finish 30-minute motos, feeling like they'd been in a blender, their hands numb, their vision shaky, their respect for the machine absolute. The fifth gear wheelie legend. Here's something that sounds like BS, but isn't. The CR500R could pull wheelies in fifth gear. Most bikes struggle to lift the front wheel in second gear. The CR500R would casually pop the front end skyward while cruising in top gear. That's not impressive. That's terrifying. It meant you were never safe, never in control. The bike could decide to go vertical at any moment, for any reason. The frozen-in-time tragedy. The AMA killed the 500cc class, and with it, they killed the CR500R's reason to exist. While the KX500 kept racing in Baja, kept evolving, kept improving, the CR500R was left in limbo. Honda's final 2001 model was virtually identical to the 1993 version. 8 years. No development, no evolution. Just the same brutal machine, slowly getting more outdated. It's like watching a champion boxer forced into retirement at their peak. All that potential, frozen in time. There's no taming the 500, just brief periods of survival. That comment from a forum user perfectly captures the CR500R experience. You didn't ride this bike. You survived it. One owner put it perfectly. Most people don't realize how much work it takes to ride a 500. Everything becomes dangerous, if not calculated right. It's almost like it wants to hurt you to prove a point. Another rider described it as sitting on a bull while someone cracks his nuts with a baseball bat. These aren't exaggerations. These are war stories from the trenches. Here's what separated CR500R riders from everyone else. Respect. Not for other riders, not for the track. Respect for the machine. You approached a CR500R like you'd approach a loaded weapon, carefully, deliberately, with the understanding that one mistake could end very badly. Experienced riders would spend minutes just looking at the bike before starting it, checking everything twice, because once that engine fired up, there was no room for error. Fast forward to today. We've got 454 strokes making similar peak power with twice the rev range and infinitely better manners. So why do riders still obsess over the CR500R? Because modern bikes are too perfect, too controlled, too safe. The CR500R was raw, honest, brutal. It didn't lie to you about what it was. It didn't pretend to be user-friendly. It was a weapon, and it made sure you knew it. Here's the irony. The most dangerous CR500RS are now the most valuable. Those early liquid-cooled models that Honda spent years trying to tame, they're the holy grail. Collectors aren't hunting for the improved later models. They want the original hand grenades, the unrideable ones. It's like collecting serial killers' paintings. The more dangerous it was, the more people want it now. Some owners have figured out how to tame the beast. Sort of. Take the modified CR500R we saw in Canada. The owner ported the engine, reshaped the cylinder head, revalved the suspension, and fitted it with trail-friendly tires. The result? A bike that doesn't foul spark plugs. At low RPM, smoother power delivery, less uncontrollable wheel spin. But here's the thing, it's still a CR500R. It's still got that explosive potential lurking, just a throttle twist away. At around 107 kilograms with fuel, the CR500R wasn't particularly heavy, but it felt massive. Why? Because every kilogram was loaded with potential energy, like carrying a backpack full of dynamite. The rotational mass of that big single made it harder to change direction. Once it committed to a line, it was going that way whether you agreed or not. That metallic scream from the expansion chamber, the angry bark on deceleration, the mechanical violence of the engine note. The CR500R didn't just sound fast, it sounded dangerous. Modern bikes purr. The CR500R snarled. It announced its presence like a warning siren. Everyone within a mile knew something serious was coming. Owning a CR500R wasn't just about riding it. It was about maintaining a relationship with controlled chaos. Everything wore out faster. Everything broke more often. Everything needed more attention. But owners didn't mind. They understood they weren't just maintaining a motorcycle. They were caring for a legend. Take a CR500R to a modern track day, and something interesting happens. It's not the fastest bike there. Modern 450s are quicker, more agile, more controllable, but it's the most respected. Other riders give it space. They watch it with a mixture of admiration and fear. They know they're seeing something special. The CR500R didn't just beat other bikes on the track. It psyched them out before the gate dropped. Riders would hear that distinctive bark and know they were up against something different. Something that didn't play by normal rules. It was psychological warfare on two wheels. You didn't learn to ride a CR500R. You learned to survive it. Every ride was a masterclass in throttle control, body positioning, and risk management. It made better riders out of those who could handle it, and it sent the rest running back to their 200s and 50s. Could Honda build a modern CR500R? Absolutely. Would they? Never. Today's liability lawyers would have a heart attack. The insurance costs would be astronomical. The lawsuits would be endless. The CR500R existed in a different time, when motorcycles were allowed to be dangerous, when riders were expected to handle the consequences. The Honda CR500R wasn't too powerful to ride. It was too powerful for most people to ride well. There's a difference. The riders who mastered it, the ones who learned to dance with the devil, they experienced something modern. Motorcycling can't replicate. Pure, unfiltered mechanical violence, controlled chaos, the thin line between triumph and disaster. It wasn't a motorcycle for everyone. It was a motorcycle for the chosen few who could handle the truth. And the truth was simple. Some machines aren't meant to be tamed. They're meant to be respected, feared, and occasionally, very occasionally, mastered. The CR500R was Honda's middle finger to the idea that motorcycles should be safe, predictable, or forgiving. It was a hand grenade with handlebars, a weapon disguised as transportation. a legend wrapped in danger. And that's exactly why we still talk about it today. So, there you have it, the CR500R, a hand grenade that demanded respect, skill, and pure guts. A bike that punished the reckless, but rewarded the brave. If you want more deep dives into the legends, the lost monsters, and the bikes that changed motocross forever, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. And remember, some bikes aren't just ridden, they're survived.